And hello and welcome in, everyone. It's a new day. It's a new week here at the Voice of College Football. And I guess, you know what? It's a new day and a new week everywhere around the world. But yes, here at the Voice of College Football, with the decision that of the settlement at the end of last week, we went live early Saturday. One of those deals where back in the old days here at the Voice of College Football, I would have been live that Friday night. I saw the decision come down about 11, something like that. It went through my mind. I should go live here. Big historic college football news. Should go live right now. Let's wait till tomorrow morning. So we appreciate everyone that could join us and did join us on a Saturday morning after the NCAA settlement and the $2.8 billion of lawsuit money that will be distributed. I'm sure those athletes over the last 10 years can't wait. And appreciate all the people that chimed in the comment section, both during the live show and then afterwards, to clear up a few things, a few points here and there. One being the reason why it was 10 years that money is being distributed, back pay to the athletes, 10 years, because that's law concerning those type of antitrust situations. So can't go back before 10 years. So those poor schmucks who played in 2015, sorry, you get nothing. You played in 2016, hey, you're in luck. So that's what happened there. Also, I see across the nation, of course, all the big college football preview magazines are out. Lindy's, Athlon's, and others. I have not received one of those. Usually go out and survey the entire market and get some of those. And then, of course, I go for the gold standard, the industry standard, the Phil Steele's college football preview for 2025. Can't wait for that. I believe he's got the entire deal done. He stated that the other day. I hit him up and said, Phil, of course, you know what? Yeah, I got to have Phil Steele here during the summer to break down his college football preview magazine. So we hope to have Phil Steele sometime in the next few weeks. And also keep in mind that we have lined up some good guests for this week concerning the settlement. I wanted to go that angle with the settlement. You may have seen the community post with the thoughts that, okay, this week we talk settlement and all the ins and outs and what possibly could happen and what it means. Not that we haven't talked about this about 400 times, but then also we would then delay the all-time program rankings another week. I continued to work on those a little bit last night, the all-time program rankings. So we'll do a full week on that, produce videos, and talk that up starting next week. All right, let's see who's in the chat. Call-in lines in the chat as well. Tukey G, good to see you. 79 Jet Bucks here. Jackson could tell us how many days, how many weeks until opening week of college football, week 0. And that's even more on my mind right now because just over the last couple of days, I've looked at the emails that have come in from the various conferences and their conference media days. I don't recall the ACC and the Big 12. I have not received anything from the Big 12 and the ACC, but concerning the SEC media days are a Monday through Thursday event, July 14, 15, 16, 17. So today is June 9th, 16, 23, 30, 7, 4. We are 5 weeks away. 5 weeks from today, the SEC players and coaches will be in Atlanta, Georgia for SEC Media Days, only 5 weeks from today. And then the week following is Big Ten Media Days from Vegas. I did not realize that until today. Usually in Indianapolis, but of course the Big Ten is expanded nationwide. So they have driven another stake through the old Pac-12 that used to hold their media days in Vegas, and now the Big Ten taking over Sin City. Is Sin City Vegas or Sin City New Orleans? Anyway, Vegas for the Big Ten on July 22, 23, 24. Karen, hello. Nick, good to see you as well. The traveling Urquides. So jazzed to watch Sac State. They are going to be fun to watch this year. We all are. The traveling Urquides, there are rumblings that USC, UCLA, Stanford, and Cal are all talking about getting back to a geographical pack. Travel is too much. Well, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a dividing of college football and the rest of the sports, because for the Stanford tennis team to be traveling to Duke to play and the softball teams to be traveling and on and on and on and on, all of those teams to be playing in front of 13 people, friends and family, close friends and close family. I don't even know if the majority of friends and family make it to those gymnastics events and the swim meets. Yeah, the travel is grueling and unnecessary just from the sheer standpoint of practicality. From a logistics standpoint and the wear and tear on the athletes and the budgets and the money, I hate to do it from a tradition standpoint, to tear away the football from the rest of the sports and say, from now on, you know, these schools that have competed against each other for years and years and years and have built these rivalries, they're no longer going to play each other. And you know, you could play Stanford tennis and gymnastics and swimming and all those against, Sac State, Cal Poly, UC Davis, San Francisco, in California schools. Only would make sense. I'd be curious to ask the chat, therefore I will. It just popped into my head. What's the last sporting event, college sporting event that you attended? Last college sporting event. For me, of course, it was a football game. The last sporting event I went to, I can't remember the last time I went to an Ohio State football game. It was around 2021, 22. That was my last game. I've never chosen to attend a college baseball game, basketball game, women's basketball game, any of that. I used to cover it, but that's a different deal. I was getting paid that I would go, case in point, we talk about all these, as the traveling Urquides is pointing out. At the time I was in Mississippi working for beautiful WCBI Sports, covering the SEC, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, and Alabama, and a number of the schools in the SEC, and I'm guessing it's still the case now, had some of the best tennis programs in the nation, men's and women's. Could never pronounce the names of the players because they were typically never Americans, but they gravitated to these certain schools. So they were constantly in the top 5 in the nation. And their sports departments and the sports information departments at those schools would have to beg us to come out, to shoot some video. And I would run out there to Starkville, go to Mississippi State. They'd have a men's tennis match between Mississippi State, who was number 2 in the country, and Alabama, who was number 4 in the country. and I just take some generic footage, run it back, and wait for the facts and read off the facts, and it wasn't really covering the match. But just goes to show you just the disparity in what you guys care about with the football and the men's basketball. And now the women's basketball. I was just explaining to somebody just the other day that for the first time ever, that the women's basketball is more popular than men's basketball. That the last two NCAA tournaments in women's play were more popular and higher rated on television than the men. You would have never thought that possible. Pack Daddy's here. Ross-Ade Stadium. It's such a beautiful place. This is the last game that Mick B went to. I was at the Purdue game in November. So this is Mick B. Ohio State Purdue? Ohio State Purdue. Where did they play last year? They played in Purdue the year before. They must have played at Ohio State. You were bored. Dave's here. Went to Minnesota, Michigan, is how I'm reading that. Oh, Mike G went to the 2023 National Championship game. Michigan beat Washington in Houston. Pack Daddy went to a Mississippi State baseball game. I remember those fondly. I think it's a much better looking stadium. They've kind of corporatized it a bit. Oh, 79 Jet Buck was at the December playoff game, Tennessee at Ohio State. You guys have shown up at some sporting events somewhat recently. Pittsnipe Husker, good to see you. Dave's here. Yes, you're right. So you would think a settlement would be just that. It would settle things. Yeah, this settled some things, but it's also going to open up a whole lot more. It means new court cases. That there's going to be more lawsuits coming. We will ignore that comment, even though I posted it, just so that I could tell all of you that I would ignore it. Man, somebody help me out on this one. Nick, of course, is a Michigan fan. 2023, Michigan nothing. BYU 24-57. Oh, yes. Okay. Going back to the 1984 BYU team. I've left a link there in the chat so you can call me about anything concerning college football. What I would think we would set our attention to would be, again, this settlement, for as much as I really don't want to talk about it, really should break this thing down and take it in a certain direction of where I think this thing's going to go and what could happen, even though I am not a legal mind in any such way. I do find it fascinating that there's $20.5 million available for each one of these athletic programs. And another point of clarity that I appreciate. So one was that a few people chimed in to remind me that the reason that the athletes' back pay was going to 2016 is because the antitrust laws and what is grandfathered in is just a 10-year retro pay. And then the other aspect of that has to do with the $20.5 million. And maybe I was a little bit unclear. Somebody got irate with me that I was just spreading misinformation. And I said, sir, not spreading misinformation. How can I spread misinformation when my approach to these type of situations is to take what's documented, what is being reported, not speculative being reported, but what is been decided, reading the entire report as we did the other day and all the ins and outs from one of the mainline articles, and then just basically then speculating what could happen from there. That's not misinformation, just talking about the various options and results of all this and whether it's fair or not fair or what it is. I've kind of settled back into this mode right here. And I don't know if this is feasible legally or not, but I do think that this would be fair for the athletes and would also keep some level of attention and priority on academics and the amateur status of these athletes. As our buddy Garrison, the Ohio State host that takes on some of our shows here at the Voice of College Football, called up and was clinging desperately to the notion of keeping this an amateur sport. And I'm going to take us to a place that we're not going back to. I get it, because of the $20.5 million. So we've got revenue distribution that is tied not to NIL, the $20.5 million that's available to every school for the athletes, not just the football players, for the athletes, and to be distributed. I hope it's going to be distributed based on popularity, based on the amount of net revenue. Of course, it's very expensive to field a football team, so I don't believe it should be directly related and proportionate to the income of each athletic team, but the net revenue of each athletic team. So when that $20.5 million goes to Ohio State, Michigan, Georgia, Alabama, all the different places, and they have that, I should say it's not necessarily that it goes there, but they, within this agreement, have the leeway to spend legally and within the rules, spend that much money on a roster for all the athletes put together. Thank you for those that clarified that that's not going to be the amount of money that's spent by every school. No, like the Kent State football roster is not going to be $20.5 million this fall. One big question I have in all of this that I never hear talked about is the taxpayer. So way back when none of this made any money, just like all sorts of programs that have been deemed by basically our government to be beneficial to these universities and colleges, to the betterment of the students. If you really trace the money back, it goes to the taxpayer. A lot of it goes to the taxpayer. Some of it goes to the taxpayer. I don't know if it's a lot because there are endowments and ways of fundraising, but it goes back to the taxpayer because it was deemed part of the education process. But now the sport of football has become so popular that it's revenue generating. Well, is any of that still generated by the taxpayer? And if so, it shouldn't be, because these football programs are solvent, so they shouldn't need any help from us, the taxpayer. Of course, they need help from us, the consumer, but not the taxpayer. And then if the likes of the schools in the MAC, the Sun Belt, and elsewhere can't keep up with that, then maybe they should give up playing football. But because there is such a way to support these football programs because of the fair market and the supply and demand and how valuable they are, that if certain programs can't keep up, they shouldn't be subsidized by the taxpayer just so that they can play college football. I think we're well past that. Mick B is telling us that Nick Chubb signed with the Houston Texans. Edward, lawyers are in glee. This did not shut them down. This has revved them up. I've already heard that a number of athletes that are being bypassed because of the 10-year antitrust law that states only athletes that have played within the last 10 years, going back to 2016, are eligible for the $2.8 billion that there are athletes thinking about, or maybe they have or are in the process of filing their suits. Crazy. Gregory's been to the shoe once in 2004. And because it was 2004, he was more likely than at any other time to have seen an Ohio State loss than just about any other season. 8-4 for the Buckeyes that year. Mick is also telling us that Ross Bjork is committed to keeping all 36 Ohio State sports. And I believe the Ohio State University fields more sports teams than any school in the country. And there are going to be sports that are sacrificed as part of this. Jeff says, hey, Mark, look for Lee Corso next to you. He is second best. Yes, no Lee Corso this year. He's going to do that first week of game day and then right off into the sunset. Expect that to be the Florida State-Alabama game because of Lee Corso's ties to Florida State. He coached there. He played there, I believe, with Burt Reynolds in the mid to late 50s, and then right off into the sunset. This arrived in the mail today. My daughter, my precious daughter, purchased this baby for me. That was part of a birthday present. So I so much thank her, of course. Sharice is here. George is here. Matthew Miller knows about Burt Reynolds. I was trying to explain this to a friend of mine, and I've done this a number of times with him, that he has it in his brain that anybody, regardless of the age, only knows celebrities, whether they're music artists or actors and actresses within their generation. I try to tell him this all the time, that especially in this day and age, I'm not saying that that a bunch of 20-year-olds are watching old TV shows or listening to classic rock or anything for the most part, but many of them are. I see it all over the place on YouTube. I watch these music reactors that are 20, 25 years old, and they're listening to songs from the 50s and 60s. That doesn't mean the majority of them are, but yeah, I was having a conversation with somebody this past weekend, and they brought up the name R. Kelly. And I said, I'm not familiar, have no idea who you're talking about. And they about shot out of their chair. Could not believe I had never heard of R. Kelly. I said, I don't know who you're talking about. R. Kelly. Yeah, the closest I can come up with would be Roberto Kelly, former center fielder for the New York Yankees. That's the best I could do. Yeah, so they enlightened me to R. Kelly. Got on my phone. I texted my kids. Said, do you know who R. Kelly is? They said, of course, Dad, we know who R. Kelly is. I can't believe that you don't. Yeah. Pit Snipe Husker says, my 18-year-old nephew has gotten into vinyl. It's fun. Just got him some Eagles and Sam Cooke and Bill Withers. Eagles, couple good songs. Sam Cooke, beautiful singer, beautiful voice. One of the great voices of all time, just like velvet. Bill Withers, I don't know who that is. Isaac says, Mark, what do you think of Iowa State potentially leaving the Big 12 to go to the group of 5? Now, is there some kind of talk out there? Because I would not really understood that. I'm going to have to look up Bill Withers. I don't know Bill Withers. I'm going to have to look him up. But Iowa State to the group of 5. Oh, Bill Withers. Lovely day. Ain't no sunshine since she gone, right? Bill Withers. Yeah, I would not be familiar with Bill Withers other than that song, I guess. What's up, college football peeps, is that we're talking about music for some reason because I brought up R. Kelly. And being completely oblivious to R. Kelly and who that is. Appreciate you being here at the Voice of College Football. This is our Monday through Friday show. We've got some really good guests lined up. We've got Tony Barnhart of ESPN fame in the past. He writes college football books, great college football historian. That's Tony Barnhart's on Wednesday. And then we've got our buddy Big Game James Coleman, former Florida State fullback. I wanted to get him on. He covers Florida State football, of course, but also the Jacksonville Jaguars for the NBC station there in Jacksonville, Florida. And for James to give us a perspective from the players' perspective. And he works with a lot of players from a coaching standpoint and an NIL standpoint. So we got James Coleman on Tuesday, Tony Barnhart on Wednesday. I do not want to butcher the gentleman's name, but Minnie's right here. Minnie, by the way, pointed me out to an article from CBS Sports about offensive line play and how the transfer portal and NIL has affected offensive line play. So I hunted down the writer from CBS Sports, and he's going to be on Thursday. And a few other guests lined up that I cannot recall right this second. So today is just kind of a grab bag. I got to say, I didn't come up with anything. I kind of racked my brain for about 37 seconds and did not come up with anything connected to this ruling that came out late Friday night. I still think, and I've not seen anybody do this out there, maybe I'll be the first, been talking about this for weeks and weeks and weeks, to take that $20.5 million and maybe more so in the $16 million range. I heard Michigan's only going to give football 70%. I got to think that the football team in Michigan makes more than 70% of the sports revenue. But I heard from a fairly reliable source that Michigan, yes, 70% to football. So 70% of 20.5 million, or about 14 million. Take the 14 million. Maybe I'll look at some college football rosters. This is how I would do it. Okay. I am school X. Any of these schools up here, any of the schools on the shelf will probably have that kind of money to spend the $20.5 million and go ahead and say, yeah, we're all in. We're an elite sports school. We're gonna take the $20.5 million. We're gonna spend it. And let's say football gets the $14 million. I don't know if I could get away with this, but yeah, the first thing I would do would be I would tie the sports revenue, the distribution, directly to how much money they bring in net. I would make a just straight comparison. If our football program brought in 77%, they get 77% on down the line. I'm not giving the rowing team anything. They don't make any money. Be happy with your scholarships, your education, training table, whatever you get. Be happy with that rowing team. I'm not giving you anything. This is strictly dollars and cents. If your school, if your sports team makes the money, then you are going to get the money. We're not running a socialist endeavor here at these universities if I'm running them. Football team, men's basketball, women's basketball, there's anything less beyond that. Oklahoma softball, if they make money. I heard about them the other day that they just started to make money and they've won 4 consecutive national championships. And it's not that expensive to field a girls softball team. Sorry, women's softball team. They've got to have, 13 players. Field's not that much to maintain. But I make that distribution equally in terms of what is earned, and then I go from there. And I don't know if I could get away with this, but I would pay the players after the season. We got our football team, and it would be announced that we are going to pay you 10 days after the season is concluded. That's when payroll is, 10 days after the season, because I want to evaluate the season. I'm going to evaluate the players based on their performance, not what we're expecting them to do. I would totally reverse the way sports teams and sports salaries are conducted, which is, you know what your salary is for the 2025 season. And then you could go out there and you could become the biggest breakout player in America, or you could be a complete flop. You could get injured. You could get this. You could get that. No, I would evaluate the season and then pay the players. I don't know if I could get away with that, but that's what I would attempt to do. I would also take that money, $20.5 million for the entire athletics department, say $14 million for football. I would take all that money, and I would determine a portion of that, let's say roughly half, I would pay equally to everyone. I would say that even though, let's say I've got a star quarterback, we're talking about who's the best quarterback in college football. Could be Drew Aller, Cade Klubnik. That even though that guy is not only playing the most important position, but he's a star, he's the best in the sport, he's worth whatever out of this $14 million I have for the roster. The guy that is the special team guy that never has a chance of playing a down unless it's 50-0, that he's putting in just as much work. He's lifting weights. He contributes. He's on the scout team. He does all these good things to help us win games. I'm going to take 50%. It's almost like an ACC TV model, the media rights model. Roughly, I don't know if it's going to be 50%, but roughly 50% of that revenue that I'm going to pay out to the players, going to pay out evenly over the entire roster. So if these players are making about $150,000, say 15 million, 100 players, 150,000 per player on average. I'm going to take 75,000. I'm going to give it to every player. Then I'll take the other 75,000 per player. That's when I would do my player evaluations. But I would love to go back to the scholarship. It's worth something. The scholarship is worth anywhere from $40,000 to $100,000. The education, the contacts, the networking, the training table, the food, the workout facilities, the experience, the travel, all of it, it's worth $40,000 to $100,000. That's your pay. And then NIL, I think NIL just needs to be regulated when it comes to making sure that it's not conducted in some unsavory way. But in terms of limiting the amount of money for NIL, everybody wants a cap on this. I don't, If the NIL cap, let's say, is $25 million, and each school can only bring in $25 million per sport, per team, and Oregon has already brought in $25 million for its football team this year, and some bigwig philanthropist out there wants to give Oregon some more money. He can't. They can't. I don't really understand that. Todd would prefer a cap. Well, this first year, there is a cap. There's a $20.5 million cap on each athletic department in terms of I believe that's all media rights revenue. I think. I don't think that the likes of Tennessee and Penn State, Michigan with 100,000 seat stadiums are sharing money. That's never been the case before with all the other schools that have these small stadiums. So I believe that's all media rights generated money that's going $20.5 million media rights across the board, not just football. So there is a cap, right? It's $20.5 million. There's not a cap on NIL. And I really can't see a legal reason why we would go to 40 or to any particular figure. McBeast says Texas is at 40 million. They're giving a middle finger to the cap. No. Two different things. If I understand. Maybe I'm missing something. Maybe you're right, McB. The University of Texas has $20.5 million that it can spend paying its athletes. 70 to 80% is going to go to the football team. $15 million, let's say. The University of Texas has NIL collectives, boosters, rich oil men, all those folks giving whatever that might be NIL. Think salary and endorsements on the professional level. Salary and endorsements. Here it's revenue sharing and NIL. So I don't know that they're putting up a middle finger to that. I just believe that those are two separate deals. George, there is a link to call in. It's there in the chat. And all this gets underway technically, as Dave's here is stating, they aren't paying anything yet. July 1st, everything changes. Everything goes into play. Everything goes into play. I would hate to be an athletic director this summer because regardless of how much you anticipated this and put the pieces in place to execute all of this, there's no way you could do it functionally. So you would have to wait until it actually was the case. And I bet these athletic directors' summer vacation plans are out the door. Many of them. Appreciate y'all being here at the Voice of College Football. So we announced a watch party last week, and then I found out that we were running up against the Michigan members-only live stream. And considering our watch party this month is going to be the Michigan win in 2021 against Ohio State, that would be kind of stupid and foolish for us to do that, put people in conflict. So we won't do that. So I'm looking for a better time for us to get together and watch Michigan's win against Ohio State in 2021. That was the winner of the party selection. So that's what we are going to do sometime this month. And it's getting more and more difficult to figure out times to get together because Wednesday's out because we already have our live show with Leanne Herring on the move. Get here Wednesdays, 8:30 Eastern on the move. We take your calls, Leanne and myself. And yeah, if we're going to do a Michigan watch party, they've got shows on Tuesday and Thursday. We don't want to run into those. So that limits the week. And we'll see about SEC and Big Ten Media Days. I have my thoughts about going to SEC and Big Ten Media Days. Big Ten Media Days in Vegas. I've not been to Vegas since 2017. Had a great time with my buddy hitting the roulette tables in Vegas. I had never played roulette. Well, yeah, I played some roulette, but not to that degree. Got hooked on roulette. Yeah. Big Ten in Vegas, and the SEC is going to Atlanta. George is stopping by. George, what's going on?
Hi, Mark. Where am I at?
George. What's the good word?
Can't see myself. I just Googled how much money did Florida football bring in last year. Guess how much it is?
Is that net or gross?
I don't know, but it's $100+ million just for football.
Gross. There's no way that's a net figure. I don't believe that's a net figure.
I agree. I agree. It's gross, right? It has to be.
Because like you were talking about the other day, it costs a lot of money.
Listen to this shit, Mark.
To run
in 2024, they generated over $200 million in operating revenues, a 5.8% increase from 2023. Football was the main revenue driver at $100,796,000, followed by men's basketball and baseball. Jesus, that's a waterfall of money.
Well, they get about 75 to 80 million from their SEC TV contract.
Okay.
Football.
There you go.
Something in that range and going higher.
Hey, if we're going to pay these kids, do they have to pay for part of the upkeep of the stadium and airplane rides and the meals and the massages? And
technically, yes, because they should be earning the money off of the profit, not the gross.
This isn't going to change anything. Everybody's still going to cheat in the background, just like the good old days.
George, let me throw this at you. No, it's not, because no amount of money is ever enough money. So even though you generate 25 or 30 million to pay these athletes, if your competition's got the 25 or 30 million and you can go scrounge up another 15 million and give it to the athletes behind under the table, then you're going to do that. Yeah.
Right.
Let me ask you this, George, see if this makes sense to you. This is what I got a possible problem with, is that when all this started way back when, just like any other extracurriculars for these universities, it was, if you really follow the money, it goes back to the taxpayer. That, you know, the state schools deemed that these things are part of education. But
That's right.
Then obviously college football turned into a big business, and then it became self-sufficient and then a moneymaker. But it's not a moneymaker at a Sunbelt school or a Conference USA or a MAC school. It's not a moneymaker. They play in front of 12,000 people.
Right.
They gotta fly a team across the country, 100 players, and do all the things, and all the equipment costs so much money, and the food and everything else, the maintenance of the stadium. So I have a problem if the entire sport is self-sufficient and money-making, but this portion over here, let's say 40 schools in the country need supplemented by the taxpayer, they should either go away or the greater whole should compensate for them. But there should not be any taxpayer involvement in any of this.
I agree. It's not going to happen, though.
Yeah.
It's too big of a gravy train. Hey, what about the 12th man, like at Texas A&M? How much they get? They're the 12th man.
They're the 12th man. Yeah.
Are they going to unjack the ticket prices a little bit for them and say, consider this a $50 rebate? We just lowered your $600 ticket to $550 or what? It's got to be something.
They should.
Or quit calling them the 12th man. Call them wage slaves or whatever they are.
That is a good one right there.
So amateur sports is almost over, huh?
July 1st.
Except for small schools.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's over.
So can we give the players a couple extra years in college as long as they keep taking basket weaving or something? I mean, if we're all pros now anyway, maybe they'd rather stay with their college team for a couple more years, give them 6 years of eligibility. Because the NFL, all the ratings nobody's watched the NBA finals this year. It's on TV. They're talking about it. No one cares. And college football will take over the NFL, I think. It's more fun. You know, there's still a little bit of pageantry and rivalry. There's still a little bit of it.
George.
Maybe not. I don't know.
You are on it when it comes to 99.9% of this stuff, but the NFL, don't equate the NFL and the NBA.
Really?
The NFL is the gold child. Yes.
I can't watch it no more.
Yeah.
Nobody's uniforms ever get dirty. It's all seems kind of staged. I just, at least in college, they seem to be playing with some heart still. You know, it just doesn't look the same. It's not the same product watching the NFL. Is it? Am I wrong?
It seem like that. They're a lot better. If you watch a college football game and you watch an NFL game, they're a lot better. Yeah, the NFL.
Yeah, but they're all pretty boy.
Think about this. Here's just one example, George. The first weekend of the college football playoff, there were 2 games played at night, a Friday night and a Saturday night. So college football took its 2 most lucrative games, Ohio State, Tennessee, and Notre Dame, Indiana, and played those at night. But the day games were Clemson, Texas, and SMU, Penn State. Those games went up against NFL regular season games and got squashed, like 3-to-1 viewership.
Okay. I'm really amazed that many people still are into the NFL.
Yeah, the NFL.
I was around for the good old days. I grew up watching Terry Bradshaw and what was that other guy? Joe Montana. All of them, all the good old days. It was just different. Everybody was bloody and dirty, and their uniforms were all messed up at the end of the game. A lot of times, anyway. Now everybody's all clean at the end of the game. I don't get it.
I have a
I don't
proposal
see
here,
no
George.
blood.
How does this sound, George? I got a proposal. College
We
football
want blood.
fans need to unite. I know this isn't going to happen. It's too impractical, and people are too undisciplined and can't work together to do this. But if college football fans would get together, just stay away from the stadiums for 1 month. Just all of September. Do not go to any college football games. Empty out the stadiums. You can still watch them on TV, so you can still watch your college football. You're not going to miss it. And that would just send a enormous statement to the powers that be that who really runs this sport? The fans run the sport. They're just not disciplined enough and organized enough to know it.
Right. Hey, I know it's true because that movie was on with Wesley Snipes yesterday called Undisputed, where he beats like Mike Tyson in prison.
Yes.
Remember that movie?
Yes.
But he beats him. But that other guy, what's his name? The big guy that played his opponent. Anyway, his manager told him, because the guy said something about screw the fans. And the manager went, whoa, wait a minute. That's your money. That's your bread and butter. We can't live without them. We need the fans. Don't be telling the fans to piss off, you know? That's exactly what you just said. It's driven by the fans. But we have no voice because we have no continuity. We have no togetherness. We'll never get together and do that. If only half of them would do it, it would work.
Yes.
You know?
Every so often.
And then say lower these ticket prices.
I was going to say the COVID season planted that seed in my brain, but actually it was way before that. It's when these baseball seasons would go on strike. And I thought, you know what? When the baseball teams come back and all these greedy people, if the fans would just empty the stadiums, it would just shock them and just wake them up a little bit.
That must have been right after Boras got involved.
Yes, your buddy Boras.
Jacked everybody up. Boras. I'm not sure how you say that.
Well, unfortunately,
fascinating
George,
story.
Boras. It's Scott Boras. But you just keep calling him Boras. That's fine.
We could be Boras. We could get what we want too, because he got all the players together to kind of do, have an attitude. We need you to be our Scott Boras. Get all the fan bases together and say, let's try a little experiment. We'd have to do it for next season, though. People have already bought their tickets for this upcoming season.
Yeah.
We have to start next September.
But even for the people that would do it, they don't have the confidence that other people would do it. So they would say, you know what? It's not going to matter if I go or don't go because nobody else is going to do this. We would really have to get some buy-in.
You know what they do in Portland, Oregon for the Trailblazers? They go around town and give free tickets to these basketball games. Everybody else is paying $200 a ticket, whatever it costs to go to an NBA game, $300. Depends on where you sit. But they give all homeless people, as long as you don't look like you pissed yourself or something, they give hundreds and hundreds of tickets away. They give them to the homeless shelters, the food kitchens, just to get some people to come to the game. And they put you where the cameras aren't watching, too much. They don't do no close-up shots of toothless people. But, yeah, they've been doing that shit for at least 10 years. It's amazing going to an actual game, an NBA game. They got all these guys that look like they're Secret Service, and they never turn their back on the crowd. They just stand there the whole game and scan the crowd. And I sit there trying not to look guilty of anything. Like, whoa, why does that dude keep looking at me, Do you know that? You ever seen that?
Oh, yeah.
Because those are those are rich people out there on the court. Those are billionaires. They got to protect their product. Kind of hard to do that in the NFL. Place is too big. Oh, less than 90 days, man. It'll be nice when we get back to talking about whatever, football, regular football.
We're gonna give this settlement 1 week and really cover it this week, and then we'll get back to football. Talk some football here.
It's interesting. It's an interesting subject. I mean, look what they've just done. It's almost beyond comprehension. How are we going to do this? I want to see the actual numbers. Can we get that? Is that public record? I want to see what Florida paid every single individual player down to the practice squad, to the walk-ons, you know, because they're grandfathered in for a few years, the walk-ons now. They can keep over 150 for the first couple years, I think.
Well, it's public record what the football coach makes and the university president and everyone else. So I would hope so.
Mark, you should see Florida's coaching payroll. It's all on the internet. Came out a couple of weeks ago for this year. It'll blow your mind. It'll blow your freaking mind. It's like, it'll make you say, give those kids more money. If you're going to pay the coach 15 million or 12 million, or, you know, our coaching staff makes 100 million or some crazy ass shit. I know it's really like 20, but that's still a lot of millions. I mean, these guys, let's go into coaching. Tell your kid, don't become a cowboy, become a football coach. Babies don't grow up to be cowboys. Become a football coach. They make more than doctors and lawyers.
And
football is so complicated. There's only 50 people that know how to be a coach. Apparently, we got to bid for them. Nobody else can figure this darn football game out except for these 100 coaches that just keep getting recycled decade after decade. Amazing. Nobody else knows how to give a halftime speech. Oh, man. I love it.
All right, George, we're going to get Jackson on here, and we've got Nick waiting in line as well. Appreciate you calling in.
I look forward to Jackson. I look forward to Jackson and Nick. I'll sign off. Thank you.
Thanks, George. Appreciate it.
See y'all later.
Disney keeps raising park admission prices. More people keep showing up despite that. Yeah, it's I just saw an article on that the other day of what maybe a family of four spent at Disney just to get into the park and all that business. It's pretty outrageous. It's a vacation, full-blown deal. Jackson's here. Jackson, what's going on, sir?
Oh, it's going pretty good, Mark. How you doing today, man?
I am doing well. I can't complain.
Well, I will say this will make things better. 75 days till week 0, 80 days until week 1, 81 days till Auburn, Baylor, Colorado, Georgia Tech, 82 days until week 1 Saturday, 83 days till Virginia Tech, South Carolina, Notre Dame, Miami, the 2025 edition of Catholic's Convents, and 86 days until the Bill Belichick era starts in Chapel Hill.
Okay.
Between North Carolina.
I was waiting for that countdown. Very nice.
There
75 days to football.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, 75. Okay.
Oh, yeah. Got this little baby today. I'm just like,
nice.
Yeah, I was like, I could wait for the Bama edition, but I'm just like, you know what? I like seeing old rivals together, especially rivals that don't play together like they used to. Virginia Tech and West Virginia. I was like, no, that sucks.
What is Lindy's? What's their top 5?
Well, so far I've been looking at Texas. Apparently they got Texas number 1. Like, I'm not even kidding. And I saw one of the contributing writers to the magazine was somebody you had on the other day, last week, Eric Scapoli from 247 at Duck Territory. That's there we go. Isaiah Hull was on there.
Okay.
So that's a nice win right there.
Well, this is something, Jackson, that you may not know. I was the author and selector of Lindy's preseason all ACC team last year.
Oh, nice, man. That was so awesome. What was that like?
It was fun. It was a fun little research project. So I got to
Um,
select the first, second, and third team, and just to verify, who went to the NFL draft, who didn't, who transferred out, who transferred in. It took a lot of research to make sure I got it right.
There you go. I mean, that was a lot of fun for sure. Okay, I'm looking at this top 5. LSU's number 5 according to Lindy's. Like somebody's up for a disappointing season.
Well, I know you're not high on LSU, Jackson.
Well, I'm not high on Brian Kelly.
You're not. You're not. Well, he's yet to win too many big games in his career, so he's got something to prove.
Yeah, but he can't win those big games in the postseason. And Texas Bowl is not a big game. So he thinks he's a big game winner, but he's not.
He just wants to win the opener. He can't win those.
It's funny though. LSU has not won an opener at all since 2019. That's scary right there.
Yeah.
Oof. That's just like, and I see Clemson's number 4. I mean, okay, I like that. Penn State's number 2, Ohio State's number 3, and they got Oregon at 7, Notre Dame at 6. They got Bama at 8, which I'll be honest, I really don't care what the preseason rankings are. You just tell me what we ought to do for the rest of the season. Georgia, Miami are 9 and 10. Miami, they're going to have another great start to the season, but then blow up that one game they shouldn't. They always do that. And it's a good thing they don't have Georgia Tech on there. They got Virginia Tech. They got to go there late in the season, and they got to go to Pitt on rivalry week. That's where dreams go to die in all college football.
I also think that Miami has a Friday night date at Louisville.
Oh, yeah. Our good friend Austin, I know he'll be happy if Louisville's upset Miami. Like that would be something right there. Louisville upsetting Miami, but then like losing another game that they shouldn't. Because like that is just weird of Louisville. I don't know why. And they have here's a team that needs to be looked at as a surprise team for the ACC, Georgia Tech. I mean that's a team that, yeah, because I mean like Brent Key, he's been doing a remarkable job in Atlanta. I talked with Alex Donna of Locked On Canes last year, Locked On ACC. I told him that Brent Key can take Georgia Tech to where Paul Johnson had him. Maybe not as like huge as where Bobby Dodd had him, but where they were in the 90s, where they were in the 2000s. You can see Georgia Tech ending that losing streak to Georgia. That can happen. And the weird thing is, all 4 of their wins in the 21st century have all been in Athens, none of which have been in Atlanta. The last win in Atlanta was in 1999, same year that SpongeBob started. Like the last win in Atlanta is same age as SpongeBob against Georgia. That should be a motivating factor for Georgia Tech. Just be like, we got to end this losing streak. And besides, nobody talks about us, Steve. Everybody talks more about Georgia. Like, come on.
Do you know this offhand, Jackson? Ballard is putting us on the spot here. When was the last 1-2 regular season matchup in college football?
Probably be Alabama LSU.
Oh, 2011. Okay.
Yeah. 9-6 CBS.
Yeah. A lot of those Ohio State Michigan games came close. They were like 2-3, 1-3, 2-4 here in the last few years, but never a 1-2, I do not believe. Yeah, that could be the last one.
Well, there was 2006. That was the day after Bo Schembechler died.
Yes. But since 2011,
no.
I don't believe. Of course, Bama and Georgia got together in what, 2020? Yeah, 2020, but I don't think that was quite a 1-2.
Yeah, Saban was sick with COVID that week, but then he came back in time from COVID for that game.
Yeah. Could be 2011, Ballard.
It's a possibility, but I don't think you're going to see Alabama LSU as a 1-2 game anytime soon.
Troy says the 2019 Bama LSU game, the Joe Burrow Tua game, 46-41.
I think that was a 2-3 game.
Well,
yeah, because Clemson was number 1. I'm sure there was like 1 or 2 rankings that had Alabama LSU, but I don't think
it's a good guess, Troy.
Yeah, the CFP rankings, they may have had it different.
So 2019 LSU, that was number 2 versus number 3.
Yep.
I think Ohio State was number 1. Actually, at that point.
Yeah.
Because actually, Ohio State was number 1 up until conference championship weekend. And that's when LSU took over the number 1 spot.
Yup. Yeah, LSU had a lot of top 25 wins that year with Texas, Florida, Alabama, all those teams. That was a humongous year for them.
Kevin says that the Georgia-Tennessee game in 22, the blowout of Hendon Hooker, I believe that 27-14, I believe, was the final score of that game.
Oh, that was a mess for the Vols that day.
Let's try that one out.
I know, like the CFP poll, the Vols were number 1. Georgia was below number 2.
All right, Kevin. Man, their wiki page is forever that year for Georgia. The Georgia-Tennessee game was Tennessee was 1 and Georgia 3.
Yeah.
According to Wikipedia. But a lot of good guesses out there.
Well, one thing's for sure, Georgia's always a disaster for the Tennessee Volunteers.
All right, so you got your Lindy's. We're still waiting on our buddy Phil Steele. He's targeting before July 4th, I see.
Yep. That means I'm waiting it out for midnight to come, and then time for me to go order on Barnes and Noble. Then write my little bank statement on my bank book. So
and hopefully we can reel him in as we typically do. That's become a tradition for 5 or 6 straight years.
There you go. It's always a fun show seeing old Mark Rogers and Phil Steele together. It's always a fun show to watch those two.
Yes, he puts together the industry standard. It is a great publication, no doubt about that. Love Phil Steele.
Well, I'll say this: if I ever meet him, I'll have to make sure to let him know I've got like a whole list of like preseason predictions on all his magazines dating back to 2012. So that is for sure. I will say a little while ago, we got a recruiting video on Alabama with the Voice College Football square away. Samuel Utu, the 4-star O lineman, has just committed. It's a huge win. He's the 6th commit for the 2026 recruiting class, and he's the 5th 4-star. And according to On3, Alabama is 8th in the nation for recruiting rankings. USC, LSU are number 1 and 2, but having the top 2 recruiting rankings does not always mean you're going to have a splendid season. Take Texas A&M, for example. But I'm just ready for I can just tell you, summer is starting right now in Tuscaloosa, and we've got summer starting. And a little bit, Coach Burtz and I are going to be filming an interview with former college coach and current Gulf Shores High School head coach Mark Hudspeth. Now, he's a personal friend and college roommate of Coach Burtz, and we'll be getting his take on the NCAA house settlement and getting his take on where the Crimson Tide is going to be heading in 2025. And we'll be talking a lot about the NCAA house settlement, much, much more. But also, we've got the 41st edition of Crimson Tide Live coming your way after this show at 6 p.m. Central Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time.
Okay, if everyone caught that, Jackson goes live with Coach Burks at 7 Eastern, 6 Central with Alabama Live. And I just put that in the chat. Jackson, if you don't mind as well, if you could find that Minnie Hunt did an interview with the president of the College Football Hall of Fame.
Ooh, that's a win right there.
That was just a couple days ago.
Ooh, that's a humongous one.
So people will want to check that out.
Yeah. Oh, there it is. Minnie Hunt interviews Steve Hatchell with the NFF and College Football Hall of Fame. And voila. Magic.
Jackson, get these links in the chat quicker than anyone. It takes me about 12 minutes to hunt them down and get them in there, but he takes care of it.
There we go. Well, and show appreciation for letting me promote myself. Let's get Mark to 100,000 subs, 500,000 subs, 1 million subs, all right here on The Voice of College Football. Tell your friends, family, and the cashiers at Publix about the magic Mark is creating. And if you're looking for a top-notch Father's Day gift, well, let's just say you can use the Amazon link where you can shop, where it doesn't cost you a single penny. And there's the Disputed National Champions written by Mark Rogers himself, where he's talking about the 90s and what it would have looked like, all right there. The historical 1990s reset. You love reliving 90s cartoons. You love reliving 90s shows, reliving 90s everything. Well, you can relive 90s college football with Mark Rogers himself as he writes an amazing book in Disputed National Champions, College Football's Historical 1990s Reset, the Father's Day gift of the year. Stay tuned. You won't want to miss it.
Appreciate that, Jackson.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man.
Good
Thank
to see
you.
you. 75 days.
Oh, yeah.
And as I noted at the top of the show, exactly 5 weeks from today, SEC Media Days. So 35 days there.
Oh, yeah. We're rocking and rolling. We've got some big days ahead of us. College football media days are coming soon.
All right, Jackson. Good to see you. Everybody catch Jackson tonight on the Bama Show at 6 Central, 7 Eastern.
I appreciate it. And y'all stay safe, stay cool, stay away from that rain, and stay away from the heat.
Certainly a lot of heat out there. I like the heat typically, but it's a tad much. Had a little boat ride on Saturday, and they were telling a lot of people just to stay off the boat ride because it was just too hot. Heat advisory on the boat ride. Checked out some $5 and $6 and $8 million homes that I'm in the market for on the boat ride. Sure. About the most exciting thing that happened to me today was I ran up to Chick-fil-A, even though it's not on my clean diet. I've got a clean diet going since last Sunday. So I've been doing my best to eat nothing processed, but I was just in a bind. So I got two very marginal stories. I'm not selling these as great stories by any stretch, but this is the latest I've got for you on the food front. Would be late last night. I was going to head to Chick-fil-A, and then I jumped in the car and remembered it's Sunday. So I do have great respect for our fine folks at Chick-fil-A that take off Sunday, but sometimes forget that. So I was hopping in the car for the Chick-fil-A on Sunday and thought, okay, what's open at 10:30 or whatever time it was? Went down to Buc-ee's. Make a long story short, I walk into the Buc-ee's and I'm always amazed. 10:30 at night, there's 100 people in there easily. And I initially attempted to find something that was somewhat nutritional by way of like trail mix or something like that. Then I thought, I need something of substance here. So anyway, I went for one of their brisket sandwiches and I posted this on X. Should probably not give Buc-ee's a bad name because this is my first bad experience at Buc-ee's out of 2 experiences. So 3 experiences. That's right. I went down there with my son and his buddy when they came to town. So anyway, I got the pulled pork brisket, whatever it is, sandwich, and it was horrific. It was horrific. It was unbelievably bad. Like, I got like a triple decker. I was hungry, and it was nothing but gristle and fat and disgusting, and it wasn't shaved. It was like hunks of meat that were just enormous that would choke a horse. So it was disgusting. I even took it off the bread at one point and just tried to, pull the meat off the gristle and the fat, and it was disgusting. It's not worth it. Just yuck. Then I went, that's story number 1. Story number 2 is I went to Chick-fil-A today. And again, my clean eating's kind of breaking down since I went to Buc-ee's last night. And I went to Chick-fil-A just to grab some chicken nuggets, but still it's got to be, for as much as Chick-fil-A is supposed to be a relatively healthy fast food place, it's still fast food, and the oils and so forth are garbage. So I'm sure you're familiar with the Chick-fil-A, and there's always so many people that the line wraps around the store. And so I'm in line, but there's a gap between me and the car in front of me because I'm next to the drive-through line. I'm on the outside, and the guy here in front of me hasn't moved yet. So I'm not going to go up because I'm going to block the lane. So you stay back. So there are people that are leaving, that are driving by me. Then suddenly somebody drives by me and they cut in a line ahead of me. Cut in line. Somebody cut in line at a Chick-fil-A right in front of the voice of college football. You believe it. So what was flashing through my mind there for a few seconds was, these videos you see on social media where people just, take the most petty, insignificant type situation. They just go up to people's cars and just start hauling off on them or smashing their car with a baseball bat. And there's all sorts of a melee just ensues. Of course, I'm not going to do that. I will say I was petty enough to kind of like sit with my bumper against their back bumper. Like I kept bumping them along. I was just sitting right on their bumper, riding their bumper through the line. So then when I got ready to order and the fine lady came out to take my order at Chick-fil-A, it's not her fault. It's not her issue. But I just pointed out because I had to vent to somebody. I said, this knucklehead up here cut in line. She goes, really? I said, yes. I know it's not your fault. You can't do anything about it. But I just had to say, I didn't have to, but I chose to tell you that this moron cut in line. And she gave me a free milkshake. So got a free milkshake today for somebody cutting in line that probably pulled away with their food about 8 seconds before I did. All right. Welcome into the Voice of College Football to Real MVPs here.
Hey, Mark, how you doing?
I'm doing just fine. How are you?
I'm doing terrible, Mark. When you're down as a Kentucky fan, sometimes you just have to lose it all hope. Kentucky, Mark, we just lost our right-hand man. Vince Marrow, he was Mark Stoops' right-hand man for literally since his entire time there. He was the top recruiter. He left 10 minutes ago. He left. And you know where he's going to? He's going to Louisville.
Whoa. Yeah. Well,
Mark
that's
Stoops needs to be fired, Mark. He needs to be fired. He's got nothing. He had nothing before. He's got less than nothing somehow now. It's over. I mean, it's just over for us. We're going 2-10, Mark. We're going to lose to Eastern Michigan. This is already a sign that the team has already given up because Vince Marrow is the players' guru. Everybody loves him. Well, everybody loved him. Now everybody's going to hate him because he just went from he's a traitor. I mean, that's what Kentucky fans are going to view him as. He's a traitor. Same thing happened to Rick Pitino. They loved him. Then he left the Louisville, and then everybody hated him for 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
Mark Stoops has nothing, and we're screwed. We're the new Vanderbilt, Mark. We're back into the abyss, and we're going to stay there for the next 20 years.
Well, let's not give up hope, and let's not damn your program for the next 20 years now.
Well, I'm a Kentucky fan. I know Ohio State fans don't understand this, but not every program can be elite. Somebody has to lose games. Yeah, not everybody can win the national championship, okay? Somebody has to lose all these games. Purdue's going through this right now. You have a guy. Yeah, Purdue.
I love Purdue.
Well, you have a guy who's a lead head coach, and he takes your football program to the ceiling, and then he leaves or he gets stale, and then they're back to where they belong, which is in the toilet. That's happening with Kentucky right now. We were good, and now we're in the toilet. Same thing's going to happen with South Carolina. They're good under Shane Beamer. They'll be in the toilet in 7 or 8 years. These things happen to mid-level programs all the time. Look at Georgia Tech. They were in the toilet. They got Brett Key. They're good now. It's tough, Mark, out here. Yeah, I do have basketball. You're right, Matthew Miller. I do have basketball. That was nice.
Yeah, you're not. I'm sure you can think of a ton of Power Fours that have nothing, neither football or basketball. Who sucks at both right now? I don't know the basketball scene, so I can't say.
Northwestern
Sucks at both. Yeah.
Rutgers.
Okay.
Maryland. Those type of teams, you know.
You had to leave alone the SEC because the SEC was so good at basketball this year. Pretty much everyone was good. Yeah,
I know, Mark. And this is a brilliant thing that you're going to love is they're expanding the tournament probably to 76 teams. You realize if they expanded it, 12-22 South Carolina was probably going to make the field. 12-22 South Carolina.
So I really, following our discussion the other day, which has been our zillionth discussion on just kind of weighing out this playoff or any playoff from the past and trying to do what's right and do what's best and do what's best for the teams involved that are really bringing it, that are truly the best. Again, I agree with your notion. I agree with your philosophy. I just don't know that we play enough football games. Like, I know in my brain who the best teams are because history has borne it out, and we see it in recruiting rankings and NFL draft selections. And I know I'm going to take a hit for using things that are unrelated to the results of football games. They seem unrelated, but it's just played itself out so much that we know who the best talented and the ones that will show up in the postseason. I need the results, and I need a quantity of results to bear that out, to feel good about leaving out the second place Big 12 team, for example.
Well, I don't know how you're going to do that unless we get more games.
Yeah.
Because
non-conference games.
Right. And that's not going to happen anytime soon. If anything, we're going to get less non-conference games because the SEC and ACC is probably going to non-conference games. So,
and what we get too much of, as you will know, is let's say Baylor and Auburn are playing. And that's a game that somewhat interests me. But if Auburn is the Auburn of the last 5 years and they go 6-6, what does that really prove? If
nothing.
Baylor's 8-4 and they somehow pull out a win against Auburn, big deal. That's a nice little win for them, but most likely Auburn's going to be 6-6 and they're going to beat Baylor. So that doesn't really prove anything.
No, it
Yeah,
looks cool for all the people who hate the SEC and just flash the record on without any context, though. That's what it proves.
Yeah.
Like the people who were claiming the ACC was better than the SEC that one year because they went 5-3 despite like 2 of their wins being against Vanderbilt. It proves that. Yeah, he's Kentucky, I think, was 9-3 under Benny Snell. I don't think they were 8-4. They might have even been 10-2 if I'm not mistaken. And yes, they would have made the playoffs over a 2-loss ACC or Big 12 runner-up. They probably should have, and they probably would have. I hate to be that guy. That's just the way it's going.
Kentucky went 10-3 twice under Stoops, correct?
Yeah, so it'd be 10-2. Would it be 10-2 because or 9-3?
I thought they won the bowl games. I thought one of those years was when they beat Penn State, and the other time was when they beat Iowa.
That's correct. Sorry, Mark. I'm down about Kentucky football right now because we lost our best guy. So I'm just kind of supplanting worse losses on them. So we were 9-3. So we would have made it in 18. We were one of the top 16 teams.
Yeah.
In the country. I hate to tell you, Mike, 883. You are not what your record says you are. Every other sport doesn't care about your record. Look at March Madness. There's always a 30-3 team or a 29-4 team that doesn't make it because they didn't win the Southwest East American Conference. And so that's just the way it's going. Look at the college baseball. 13 SEC teams made it in. Kentucky, who went 13-17 in the SEC, made it in over the 4th place Big 12 team. That's just the way it's going in college football. I'm not saying this is a value statement of how it should be, or this is a good thing, or this isn't a good thing. I'm saying this is the way it is going to be. And you better like it, because that's what you all voted for by expanding the playoff and knowing Texas and Oklahoma were in the SEC, and then Oregon, Washington, USC, and UCLA was going in the Big Ten. There's no world in which those 2 conferences would be like, yeah, we should just go by our record when they have significantly more talent than the other conferences. This is always how it's going to end up being.
We had a stretch of time in the 4-team playoff that I think stretched from 2015 until the final year when Michigan won it, where no one won any college football playoff games except the SEC, Ohio State, and Clemson for 8 years. Those were the only 3 entities that won playoff games.
Yeah, that's crazy. And I would still say they've won, 80-90% of all playoff games? Still?
Yeah. Yes.
Even with Penn State winning a few this year and Notre Dame, they're just playing a different level of competition. I know it's not fair. I know it's not beautiful because if you're not in those conferences, you're left out. But other conferences and other sports have survived and made it pretty far under the format that we're going to. Look at college baseball. There's only 2 SEC teams that have made the World Series this year because it seems like the SEC was a bit overvalued. So what happens is the bad SEC teams get crushed early on and they get filtered out. It's not like just because you have more teams represented, that automatically means you're going to win it all. You still have to beat elite competition to win it all, and the best team at the end will win it all for that reason. Now,
so there's 8 teams in the College World Series, correct?
Correct.
And the SEC still had 2 spots in a down year.
Yes. They had the most of any conference. The ACC could tie it up tonight if Duke beats Murray State. But everybody knew the ACC and the SEC were the 2 best conferences entering the year. That's been the assumption for plenty of years now. I'd say, honestly, it's been more dominant than college football has been. The gap between them and the, I don't even know who the 3rd best is, the Big Ten, the Missouri Valley Conference. I'm not joking. The Missouri Valley Conference has had 3 teams in the super regionals in the last 5 years.
Nice.
Yeah, it's insane for them.
I went to a College World Series in the late 90s, 98 or 99, covering Mississippi State and Alabama. 4 of the 6 teams, it was a 6-team field then, 4 of the 6 came out of the SEC West, out of the entire nation. The 6 teams in the College World Series, 4 of them, I think it was Mississippi State, Alabama, LSU, and maybe Auburn.
Yeah, it's been basically that level of dominance the entire time for the SEC. And that's, unfortunately, this is how it's going to be in college football as well. You're going to have a 3-3 SEC team be ranked in the top 10 in the country. I'm not joking. You think I'm joking? I'm seriously not joking. Oklahoma this year, if they went by your actual strength of schedule, your strength of record, how well you play against your competition, all that stuff, they could be 8-4 and make the college football playoff if it was a 16-team model. I hate saying it, but look at their schedule. Just look at their schedule and look at who most of the ACC and Big 12 play. And it's just not comparable, especially if Oklahoma beats Michigan and it has that massive non-conference win. Nobody in the Big 12 is going to be able to match that in non-conference play.
Yeah, not enough non-conference games. And even if we go the route that I was just trying to make a point. I'm not truly proposing this, but to try to even out the schedules, we would have to wait down the Big 12, especially the Big 12, because the ACC does go out and schedule a lot of SEC competition. And of course, they've got the Notre Dame contract. But the Big 12, we would have to weight these teams down with ridiculous non-con. Kansas State would have to play Ohio State, Clemson, and Texas or something. It would have to be so egregious. Then obviously, then we wouldn't have the Big 10 and the SEC playing non-conference games. So it's not going to happen anyway. But there just aren't Big 12 non-conference games that come to mind that are going to move the needle. Oklahoma State goes and plays Oregon, but most likely they're not going to be a factor. And I mentioned that Baylor-Auburn game, and Auburn may be better this year, but I don't know that they're college football playoff worthy. So we just don't have those kind of matchups.
Right.
Big 12.
Right. It's more of a scheduling problem than anything else, but I would say look at the level of dominance in these unlike seeded games. A perfect example last year was Arizona State, Mississippi State. Mississippi State should have lost by like 35, 40 points. The number 1 team in a conference plays the worst team in another conference, and it's at home for the number 1 team, and it's a 7-point game. That tells me a lot about how bad your conference is at the top. Tells me a lot.
I'm gonna supply just a little context. It did finish up being a 7-point game. It was like a 27-point game, but Mississippi State did make a run at it late.
I mean, that's fair, but still, I mean, if it was Ohio State or, USC, Michigan, that would have never happened in that close.
Sure. Yeah.
I agree, by the way, with Adam's comment here that Drew Aller's overrated. I don't know about the no class part. Don't care. I don't love the Drew Aller hype. I know we disagree on this. He's just a mid quarterback that has a great defense, plays for one of the best, most talented teams in the country. They're going to make the college football playoff because they're going to win 10 games easily. They'll lose to Ohio State by 7 or 14 points. Not like they do every year. Then it depends on their path. Do they play an elite team? If they do, they'll lose. Do they not play an elite team? If they don't, they'll win. That's all they are. They haven't improved any, especially at the wide receiver position, for like the last 7 years. They're just exactly the same program. It's just the structure of the sport has changed around them to make them think they've gotten better. And you know this because look at how many people have talked about how great of a run Penn State had. Nobody cares. Nobody's talked about, man, Penn State has really proven the downers wrong by beating Boise State and SMU. No, everybody still has the exact same questions about them. And now I think Drew Aller, the way he ended that Notre Dame game is the indicator that most people just don't have any confidence in the big moments he can step up. Because I remember in 2023 or maybe 2024, he costed them against the Ohio State and Michigan game. And I know it's not fair to judge somebody based on their only 2 games, but man, those are the only two big games you had in the Big Ten East. So, and he choked in both of them. So I don't think he's a great quarterback, but you don't have to have a great quarterback to win in this new era of college football. I mean, look at who's won it since 2020. The best quarterback to win it since then is easily Will Howard, but you don't have to be a world-class dominating quarterback to win it all. And that's the benefit for Drew Aller.
So just to pay off on Adam's contribution here, Adam, thank you so much for the super chat. Drew Aller is overrated and has no class. Penn State is overrated. I would love an explanation on the no class portion of this. Penn State is overrated. The settlement just ensures that the wealthiest schools will dominate college football. It's an antitrust issue and unacceptable. Adam, thank you for that. And boy, Adam's all over Drew Aller. Man, I hope for Drew Aller's sake, he gets some retribution this season.
I hope they just win a big game. Just a big game. Just beat a top 5 team. I know that's a lot to ask for, but when you have top 5 talent or top 7 or 8 talent, you should eventually, just by happenstance, win one of these big games. You think just randomly, just throwing the football in any direction, you would eventually do the right thing. Right. It's honestly impressive how bad they've been against top 5 teams. It's like Iowa against ranked teams. You think eventually they just happenstance, the ball would bounce funny and it would go their way. No. It never goes their way. I think that's the concern for him. I think, what is it? Penn State's 1-23 in their last 24 top 5 games, something like that. Now it's at the end of the season, or I think it was time of kickoff. It's something insane like that. And I know somebody fact checked me. If true, but Mark, I was going to ask you about did you see Greg Sankey was golfing with President Trump yesterday?
I did not see that.
Yeah, he was golfing with President Trump, and people are thinking it might have something to do with like Greg Sankey potentially being the commissioner of college football, or codifying antitrust exemptions in there. What are your thoughts on why he would do it?
Well, I think that any time that anyone in Greg Sankey's position can hobnob with for his own personal brand and popularity and status as an ego thing. And when I say an ego thing, that's not a knock on Greg Sankey. That would play to just about all of our ego to have to be in a position to play golf with. And regardless of what you think of this current president, a president. So there's that. And then there's also, positioning himself in his conference and in the sport. And then when Congress does most likely intervene to set up some rules and so forth, when there's Greg Sankey is the most well-known administrator, CEO suit in the sport, and he's just amplifying that. He's just solidifying that.
I'll make it go one step further, Mark. I think he's the most popular or well-known figure in college football right now that's currently active.
Yeah, I think this chat knows who Greg Sankey is. I don't know if we took it a step down. A lot of people that I know that watch college football on Saturday afternoon would not be able to tell you who Greg Sankey is.
Okay. I was just thinking because Jim Harbaugh stepped away recently. Nick Saban. College football doesn't have that one coach that's really taking it over.
Yeah, the amount of coaching acumen and swag that stepped away in the last 7 or 8 years is pretty substantial. Harbaugh, Saban, Meyer, Jimbo, et cetera. It's quite a bit of clout. Yeah. I'm just thinking of my circle of friends. They don't know who Greg Sankey is, and they would not be in this kind of conversation or this chat, but they would they watch a game and a half or 2 games on Saturdays.
Fair enough. So also, Mark, I saw that Penn State, and it was rumored UCLA, but I saw it wasn't true according to Ross. Penn State is doing private equity now. So that's official. So that's something that's just going to be great for the sport, is you're just going to have this influx massive of cash. I mean, what could possibly go wrong, Mark?
Yeah, well, these institutions are in a position where if they want to stay on top, they're looking for any way that they can generate more and more money.
Is Penn State broke? Do we need to get them a GoFundMe page or something and donate to them? I didn't realize they were this broke where they have to go out and get private money. Somebody help them, please.
They're just trying to keep up.
Keep up with who?
Keep up.
They're the richest conference. They make the most money.
Yeah, but
they're in first place. How do you keep up when you're in first?
Yeah, they're in first in terms of media rights, but they're sharing first with 17 other schools. Some of them are named Ohio State and Oregon.
So they don't want to keep up. They want to be first by themselves.
Yeah, you got to hand it to them to say, this is a full throttle professional corporate endeavor now. These schools aren't acting like schools. They're acting like corporations.
Right. Which, by the way, it just certifies we need to make these players employees, which is going to be so great. And personally, for me, is when the players cheer for this, because they've been taking way too much recently. I think the balance of power shifted way too much. And then, like, a player just gets cut in the middle of the season for being trash. Like, that's going to feel like, you just take, ask for more, and then you just get cut in the middle of the season. You got to take the good with the bad. Sorry. You're not performing well. Cut. You didn't hit your contract incentives. Well, guess what? You're not going to get paid your NIL bonuses. It'd be nice to see.
Yes, if those are NIL bonuses, yes. True. However, if you've got a 105-man roster and the back half of your roster sucks, I don't know where you're going to go find guys to replace those guys to cut them. But I guess you could. I guess you could say, we're Illinois, and so we're a decent Power 4 program, and we had a down year, and we really don't like how our special teams looked and our 2 line on our depth chart, and some of these guys really sucked, and there are better players at Georgia Southern and MAC schools. So yeah, you're gone. By sure, there has to be, and I'm not saying this in a mean way or that I'm out to get these guys, but with every time that there is an upside to something or a lucrative side, there has to be, you got to perform. You can't just rely on a scholarship anymore as I'm just an amateur. I'm just a college kid doing my best. No, you're a professional now. So you make all the money, but then you have to risk, being replaced.
Yeah, like imagine Florida State last year. Your players could get cut. They would cut the entire team and just be people off the streets. They perform better than what happened on the field.
I don't know if you heard my proposal near the beginning of the show, but it's to pay these players after the season. If I could get away with that, that's how I would approach this once I get my $20.5 million. And let's say it's $16 million for football. Say, I don't want to pay these players until the season's over when I can fairly evaluate them to pay them properly.
Right. You shouldn't play a player until they actually contribute onto the football field either. Especially with these transfer portal windows. You have a player commit to one school, get NIL money, and then leave immediately in the next portal window to go to a different school. I don't see how that can be sustainable going forward at all. But
I hear you.
Yeah, anyway, Mark, I'll go swallow in misery as I just lost my star recruiting person. So I'll look forward to our 75th ranked recruiting class next season. And our new head coach, who'll probably be John Summerall, by the way. I'm already sharpening you, man. I want to be a Tulane fan for this year as well. That way I can experience some winning. And congrats, Eastern Michigan, for beating Kentucky. It'll be a great day for when we lose to them, Mark. So have a good one.
All right, DeReal. Thanks, man. I had not considered Kentucky as my team of the year in 2025. Maybe Kentucky is going to take on my rooting interest. I'm looking for a team for 2025, and Coastal Carolina is in a big lead right now. Coastal Carolina, you're going to see me wearing Coastal Carolina gear, except for one problem. One problem is that they play in Group of 5 football. We don't talk Group of 5 football. I don't have anything against it, but nobody cares about it. So we don't talk about Group of 5 football. I don't watch it unless it's the only thing on. So on Saturday, I'm not watching Group of 5 football. And then now on Thursdays and Friday nights, the Power 4 has knocked that off not knocked it off of TV, but there's always a better Power 4 game than a Group of 5 game. But Coastal Carolina, I'm in love with Coastal Carolina because of the free concessions. They're my favorite team going into 2025, Coastal Carolina. But I would like to supplant them with a Power 4 team, and I'm thinking Kansas State. I like Kansas State. I like Minnesota. Kentucky in other years might catch my fancy, but don't want to be depressed all year. All right, before we take this final call, we've got Mike 3883 letting us know with the super chat here, and thank you for that, Mike. You only cheat if you think you need to cheat. It's a statement I've made over and over and over and over again. That there's only one reason you cheat. If you know that you're going to win, there's no reason to cheat. If you are fully confident in your ability to win the game, then you don't cheat. It's only common sense. All right. Speaking of which, we got Nick here. Nick, what's going on today?
Whoa. Speaking of which, what are you implying?
Well, speaking of which, not that you cheat, but we're talking about your football team.
Oh, so Michigan's the only football team that cheats. Okay, I get it.
It's the only one that's being evaluated right now and investigated in cheating.
Are you sure about that?
Cheating is subjective? Who's Pit Sniper saying cheating is subjective? No, it's not.
I mean, the Michigan cheating scandal is the only one that people seem to be infatuated with right now, but I'm sure there's other ones that have popped up here recently. But we'll leave it at that. I've said my piece on that, so it is what it is.
Yeah, I don't have anything else to say about it. I've tried to maintain a level head and balanced perspective on it. What it comes down to for me is the knowledge of the coaching staff of the cheating.
You want to know why I'm really just at this point just moving on from this entire thing? I can't get out of my head the Pat 40 tweet of him being shocked and him acting like he knew all the details and his clickbait reporting that he engages in regularly. Not saying all of his work is like that, but he definitely has engaged in that. I don't know if the dichotomy is the right word, but seeing the photo of Connor Stallions in a suit and tie showing up and there all day in the hearing, watching that, all I could think about was him in those stupid spy glasses on the sidelines for Central Michigan. Just those two images in my head. I can't. It just broke my brain. The whole, at this point, Michigan, I don't think it's going to be severe penalties, but that's subjective to people. But just take the damn penalties, move on. I'm so tired of it. I'm serious. As soon as I saw him in that suit, that Central Michigan image popped in my head, and I was like, I just can't. I can't. That just sums up how ridiculous this thing has seemed and how it's just dragged on. Anyway, that's not the reason why I'm calling. So, in your opinion, and maybe you've talked about this, how much pressure is on James Franklin to deliver this year? And by deliver, I mean, now we did kind of have this discussion before, but I'll just revert back to, I'm not saying he needs to get to the same stage because the format's changing again. It depends on the opponent. I'm talking about, let's say Penn State's a 5 seed And I don't know, talking about an opponent that people believe is better than Penn State. They win a big game on the big stage, like a first, like an actual reaching the mountaintop moment. Now, again, for them, I'm not saying they need to win a title. I'm just saying do something you haven't done yet. So, with that in mind, how much pressure is on him to deliver something like that? Like, I think he's out of excuses, don't you? Injuries aside.
So if Penn State doesn't win a national championship, aside from getting to the national championship game and participating well, not getting embarrassed, aside from that result, what result is going to be better than what they accomplished last year? You're saying that them facing somebody, not Boise State, not SMU, but somebody legit in the playoffs and winning that game is what you're looking for, and is going to take heat off of James Franklin?
I mean, I would assume it would take some heat off of him. I'm not saying he's a bad objectively. I know I've taken shots at him subjectively, of course, because that's what this is all about, right? College sports, taking shots at people. Not really, I'm kidding. But yeah, I mean, I would think it would take some pressure off of him, right? I mean, he hasn't won a Big Ten title since 2016. And to be honest, like, you can call me a Michigan homer, like, substitute any other team. When you get spanked like that, I mean, they won the Big Ten title, yes, with the rules, I get it, and the head to head and all those funky stage 1, stage 2, stage, and you go down the list with all these rules and everything. They were not the best team in their own division that year. So I'm talking about, like, you come into a season with high expectations. He has the veteran quarterback. I still think they should have a good defense. They should still have a solid offensive line. You could make an argument that they, or maybe it's not much of an argument, like, they probably have the best running back duo in the nation. Like, at this point, injuries aside, they should be the favorite to win the whole thing. And what I would like to see is just for him to take truly the next step. It's like they've been trying to shift from first to second gear and they can't, it's getting jammed. They can't figure it out. They get close, but then it pops back into first every time. So, like, and maybe that's a bad analogy. That's just kind of the way I'm thinking about it. So you feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. I just wanted to kind of get your thoughts on it because I mean, win the Big Ten, right? And do what everyone expects you to do with a loaded team. In my opinion, it's loaded. Or make the college football playoff, beat someone, like you said, besides Boise State. And besides what was the other team they played?
SMU.
SMU. Yeah. So, like, and they played SMU at home. And, Jennings didn't he throw like 3 picks in that game or something like that?
At least 3. He threw 2
Yes.
pick sixes.
Yeah, so and great, good for them. Incredible environment. It was a fun game to watch, and whatnot. But it was a hype game to watch. It was very entertaining. But I mean, I think you kind of get what I'm saying. Like, isn't that what you are at least expecting them to do this year? I mean, because those are 2 goals. I'm giving you one. Like, I'm not just giving you, like, they need to win the national title. I'm saying, like, you can accomplish the next step in different ways. You can do it in the regular season by winning the Big Ten, or you could do it in the playoffs even if you don't win the Big Ten. I think that's pretty lenient with the talent he has.
Okay, so you outlined why there is pressure there in regards to personnel and how the team has continued to be built up, and now they've had a number of star players come back, the 2 running backs, Drew Aller in particular, and most people look at the quarterback first and foremost to say, okay, this is the year. So that's one pressure point, is that it kind of builds up to this place. So I'm going to add, and to your point, I do think that they can relieve that pressure or kind of spin the season as a success one of two ways. Like you say, they could go the Ohio State route, fall short in the regular season, then turn it on in the playoff and win the championship. That would be the better of the two, obviously, because that's what people remember. And that's why everyone's playing, is to win the national championship. But if they won the Big Ten, beat Ohio State, won the Big Ten, beat somebody really good in the championship game, Oregon, Michigan, and then lost in a respectable manner in the playoff. They lost to Texas in the championship game or a semifinal or somebody of that caliber in a really hard-fought game. I think some people would still pile on them to say, well, Penn State, yeah, they lost the big game. And this is all that matters. Didn't matter what happened during the Big Ten season. But a lot of people would get off of James Franklin's back. I think what's also playing into the pressure is what their two biggest rivals have done the last 2 years. So this isn't where Alabama and Georgia won the last two national championships and the Big Ten's still looking for a national championship, and Penn State's not Ohio State and Michigan, but they're not winning national championships either. Penn State's just not as good as them.
Yeah.
Michigan did it 2 years ago. Ohio State did it last year. And now Penn State looks poised to do it now. Well, if they can't do it after those two came through, that's going to look even worse.
Well, and let me clarify. When Michigan did it, Michigan won a national championship with what were they ranked? Like total talent? They were the lowest that's won a national championship.
Yeah, they were maybe 12 or 13, something like that.
And I think Clemson was up there too. They were maybe 8 or 9 with Deshaun Watson. So, and you know, I love JJ, but like I would not say he. But, so I mean, because at this point, what's the alternative? It's like, are one of those other programs that's losing a lot more time. I mean, I guess maybe pressure is the wrong word. It's an opportunity for them a golden opportunity to stamp themselves as a real legitimate contender. Because if you take Oregon, if you take Michigan, if you take Ohio State and they surpass them while all having to replace the most important position on the field, inexperienced quarterbacks, I mean, all of them, that's a pretty, with his track record, Penn State is just not on that level. And like going forward, then that should almost be expected. Like then one of those threes, regardless of what Penn State has coming back, assuming that like there's not like a position group that gets heavily injured, or maybe their wide receivers are just like god awful this year or something like that. Like okay, if a position group really falls off, I mean, it's still part of the job is recruiting, but I would get that if that happened. But like I don't know. I just call it pressure, call it whatever you want. I think there's a lot on the line for James Franklin's legacy at Penn State this year.
Well, sure there is. We can't tell the future, but it appears to be that way because it appears to be the best chance that he has to win a national championship or win big. Although I don't know what last year was. They did win big. Again, I put the spin on it, pros and cons a zillion times. I'm not going to do it again here because there are ways to spin it to say that they broke through in a number of ways last year, and other ways, as you stated at the top of the conversation, that the system just simply changed. They did nothing different, really. But I'll say it the way that I took these calls at this time last year about Ryan Day. Doesn't he have to win it this year? What's going to happen if he doesn't? Isn't all the pressure of the world on him? And the answers were all yes, yes, and yes. But if James Franklin goes 10-2 this year and loses his first playoff game and the season is determined to be a disappointment, he's still going to be the Penn State head coach in 2026. and still probably out there recruiting a top 10 class.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm just saying, moving forward, I don't think you could reasonably. I think you could just always assume from here on out that one of those three big dog. Because what is the expectation at Oregon? What is the expectation at Ohio State? Michigan hasn't recruited to those two, but they may be starting to. Like, we may be seeing this with the new NIL push. Maybe that Bryce Underwood is kind of Sharon Morse, for lack of a better term, planting his flag. um, like their expectations right now from those fan base are win the conference or compete and win the national title. Like that's what those fan bases expect, and that's what they should expect. But I will say, like the scenario you gave out, obviously, if they win the first playoff game, that would be a disappointment. However, I would still give them leeway depending on how that 10-2 record looks. Like if they beat Ohio State, I'm not asking them necessarily to even win the conference. I'm just saying, like, beat Michigan, beat Oregon, or beat Ohio State. Like, just do that. And then fine, if you go 10-2, like, okay.
Yeah, that's what you're saying. And a lot of people will agree with you, but not everyone. Some people will only agree with success in the playoff.
That's ridiculous, though, because I think it's a step. Like, oftentimes it's steps, right? Like, look at Michigan.
They took those steps last year in a certain way.
Yeah, but I mean, it was kind of a smokescreen because, like we said, Boise State and SMU. I mean, would Oregon would have won those games?
Sure. A
From
lot
my
of
opinion.
teams would have won those games.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of what I'm saying. So, like,
about 15 teams in the country would have won those games. But also, if you're looking at performance, not just results, if you're looking at performance, they played, in some senses, Notre Dame fans won't like this, outplayed Notre Dame, and they lost in the last play of the game to a team that competed in the national championship game.
yeah, that's a reasonable opinion. But I mean, like, you could also make the argument in previous years, Penn State's already done that. Like oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. I think that Trace McSorley, Saquon Barkley, that team, that was a tragedy that they didn't make the 14 playoff in 2017.
Sure.
They were up.
Yeah, you're looking at you're talking about the Ohio State game. They had a 18-point lead in the fourth quarter and they blew it
with like less than 9 minutes to go in the fourth quarter.
They would have made it. But if you talk to Penn State people, I'm not speaking from my own knowledge of the roster, but I am in a sense, because I even though I can't point to specific offensive linemen at that time, even though I would recognize the names, I'm speaking more from my conversations with Penn State people and also my knowledge of how the program has been built and constructed, that even though those teams were flashy with great players on defense, Barkley, Godwin before that, those kind of players, they didn't have the offensive line to stand up against the very best teams in college football. Like, this team's better than that team. These 24 and 25 teams are better.
I'll have to dig into that a little bit more. I'm not convinced. I'll go with you. I'll defer to you on that, but that's interesting.
30-year teams. So where were you on this? So they were. Yeah, you're taking it from the angle that if they beat Ohio State in 2017, they're playing in the 14 playoff. Probably they got to win a Big Ten championship game, but they're going to be an overwhelming favorite. Well,
no, what I'm saying is that if they beat Ohio State in that game, then
yes.
I'm not having this conversation with you today. That's what I'm saying.
Even if they lose the Big Ten championship game and don't go to the playoff.
Yeah, because I still considered Ohio State to be elite. Then I know they would do the blowout thing, but like Urban Meyer, like that was still an elite program. at that point. Like that team had
Sure.
flaws. I get it, but it was on the road in Columbus. I mean, Michigan hadn't won in Columbus in how long since this latest run? Like, I mean, it is, Happy Valley is a great environment, but Ohio State on the road, I frankly don't care. Whoa, voice crack. I frankly don't care how good Ohio State to go into the shoe and beat Ohio State is like a national stamp. Like we've arrived. That's how I take it. Like I look at how Oklahoma viewed their win over Ohio State.
Sure.
Like teams have come in and done it, and that's been like hallmark season defining wins. Even though those teams didn't go on to win the title, they were still viewed fondly. Most of the time, successful seasons. Like that's a big data point. And again, I'm not saying James Franklin's not a good coach. All I'm saying is like take the next step. There's multiple ways to do it. But I'm just getting a little bored, I guess, I would say, with this. It just seems to keep the same story, continues to play out in a similar fashion. You get that same feeling with them. And like you said, James Franklin's still going to recruit at a top 10 level. If you're going to recruit at that level, I just don't think it's a. I don't know. I think if you're a Penn State fan, and if the season plays out similarly like it did last year, I think it's a flat out disappointment. I'm not saying that they should fire him or anything like that, but your expectations should not be to compete for a national title moving forward. Maybe it happens, and I'm not saying that they, as fans, can't enjoy that season, be happy for their team and root for them and all that. Great. But I'm saying like preseason expectations, I don't want to hear national title contender. I don't want to hear they're going to beat Ohio State. I don't want to hear they're going to be, well, Michigan, they did pull off a couple wins against Michigan, so that's a little bit different. But I don't know. I would like to see them take the next step, and I can't think, especially with the point that you just made. You just said that this year's team and last year's team, in your eyes, are more positioned from a talent standpoint to be better than Trace McSorley and Saquon Barkley. They had a good defense that, or I think didn't they have a good defense in 2017? Or am I?
Yes.
And they had some good wide receivers as well. So like that, in my mind, like from a talent standpoint, I think it's reasonable that team, the expectation was to make the college football playoff. So, and if these teams are better, then you really better take the next step. So I'm trying to be, let me put it this way. I'm trying to be objective and as fair as possible here, but also like, okay, James, like it's time to deliver. So, and I'm even giving him an out, like with injuries, right? Because like you can even say, like every team has injuries. It's football. Dudes are banged up, and that's part of recruiting. Like you need to have depth. That's why Michigan won the national title. That's why a lot of teams have won the national title. So like that depth piece. It's a similar thing with Georgia. Them being this juggernaut. They weren't a juggernaut because they had 3 or 4 or 5 stars. Like that was depth on that team. So you're rotating guy. Anyway, I'm going on a tangent now. But anyway, I think I've made my point. So I just kind of wanted to see any final thoughts that you had on that before I move on. And then one other thing I wanted to bring up, and you can let me know if you think this is a big deal. Maybe I'm like overdoing this. I've taken a bunch of shots at college sports, at least college football and basketball, the moneymakers. College football, obviously, to a much larger degree, but I'm throwing basketball in there. They're so profitable. But the part-time ref things, I guess I can't wrap my mind around legalized gambling. How is there not substantial consumer risk with legalized gambling and this part-time referee issue? Isn't that a potential conflict of interest? Like, am I missing something here? I'm surprised that this is not a bigger talking point, especially like when there's apparently some serious overhaul changes being made to the sport right now. Like, how is that not getting brought up? Like, I haven't heard it brought up that much. I think that's a big problem.
Simply that these guys are not full-time.
Well, I mean, there's tree branches off that. Like, yeah, that's the summary, but you could dive into there's plenty of sub points beneath that would support it as like a legitimate issue. Like, I mean, so let me look here. So I was looking through this.
That stems back to no one being in charge of the sport. I would guess that would be addressed if there was a commissioner.
Commissioner or not, you still have gambling that's, for lack of a better term, infected, you could say, on one end, or become such a big part of the sport. And when you're talking about legalized gambling, like you're getting into, like, if there's violations, like you're getting into criminal territory here. Like so I guess I can't wrap my mind around it. So like total NFL revenue, like you could come, well, the NFL is more profitable to have. Well, from what I'm reading, not really. I mean, the NFL's total revenue is a little bit higher, but college sports is kind of right there. I mean, what I'm reading right here is 2023 NFL total revenue. I'm sure it's higher now, but estimated at over 23 billion. Division I athletics, including college football and basketball. Let's see. NCAA athletic departments. Okay, so we're approaching like 20 billion. So it's comparable in that sense.
Yeah, that's a very distorted figure.
It is a distorted figure, but there's still
concentration of the NFL being 32 teams and there being 36 sports at Ohio State in and of itself. So
that's why I picked just football and basketball. I'm not picking non-profitable sports.
Yeah.
So, but like, you're also talking about part-time officials, right? This is not likely their largest source of income. So, naturally, from a human perspective, they're going to have relationships that could influence their officiating decisions. Like, does that kind of make sense? Like, you have more incentive to go.
You lost me on the last point, because why would they be more apt to have relationships that would affect their?
Because they're not paid. Because they're not financially. They're not as financially incentivized to not engage in illegal gambling themselves. They're not paid nearly as much as full-time refs.
Absolutely. So but we would have to go to each individual official and see what their overall pay and quality of life is to determine whether we could conjecture that they would be swayed by. So if I'm making $20,000 and we know it's more than that, but if I'm making $20,000 as a college football official and my counterpart in the NFL is making $200,000, but I'm a lawyer during the week and I make $1 million, well, then just because I'm making 1/10 of what they're making doesn't mean I'm more incentivized to cheat, because my lifestyle is actually greater than my NFL counterpart.
I guess I'm just saying from a financial perspective, yeah, okay. Well, like I said, maybe it's not that big of a deal, but it appears to be a recent study done. Like, I'm reading here
I'm less concerned about that, and I'm more concerned about their ability to process all these rules changes and the speed of the game and the complexity of the game more and more, because it's just a part-time job.
Exactly. And that's another point. Like, that's another one of those branches. Like I said, there's like 10 or 12 of these that I could rattle off, but I don't want to bore people. So like, that's what I'm saying. If that's not much of a concern, then we can move on. But like, that's the thing though. Like you said, part-time, they're not going to be as competent as full-time. They're not going to get as high of quality of training. And there's no way that doesn't have some impact on some of these calls. And when you're talking about like real people's, consumers' money on the line, that's a significantly added risk, in my opinion, and it could be eliminated. There's no reason why it couldn't. I believe they have enough money to have full-time refs. Like, I'm not going to buy into they don't have the money to pay full-time refs in college football. I don't believe that for 2 seconds.
So would they need full-time refs in Men's college basketball.
I'm gonna go more with football because that's the big money maker.
Okay.
But sure,
Even though it's actually a more taxing sport when it comes to travel and the number of games, when they have to do 2 games a week, maybe 3 games a week.
yeah, but I mean, I think it's fair to. Yeah, I understand that, but I'm talking about like more training, like the ability, like you said it yourself. You That's a legitimate concern. They're not gonna have as much training. They're not as skilled. They're just not. They're not putting in the time. They don't have the resources.
I also think that there's something at play here that has made the officials worse at their jobs, and that's replay.
Yep, I agree with that.
Because and it's not their fault. Any of us with half a brain would do it because you call the game differently because you have that to fall back on.
Well,
And
and
and you actually should call the game differently because there are certain calls that it took a couple years for it to be ingrained into them, but that you call it this way when it comes to fumbles and different turnovers and things, that you call it a certain way and let it play out because you can't reverse it one way if you call it, but you can the other way. So you default to what would replay do, and replay is going to catch me on this. So I'm
well,
not
go
going
back to the
to
Georgia.
trust. I'm not going to trust my instincts and not going to trust my training. I'm going to play the percentage game that says, even though I saw a fumble and I saw this and that's what I believe happened, I'm defaulting to allowing replay to take it, even though I'm probably right.
No, exactly. You're 100% right. There's an example. Go back. This just recently happened, and I'm not surprised it's not being brought up even more. It was a jarring thing to watch in 2024, the Texas Georgia game. No one will ever convince me that they had the right. They looked at the replay live, felt the pressure, bottles getting thrown onto the field, just ugly, ugly moment, and they overturned the call like that kind of stuff. Yeah, I'm sure it's happened in the past in the NFL, but I haven't seen anything like that recently
Yeah.
in the NFL, especially with legalized gambling. That's what I'm talking about. Like how that is just a ridiculous. And again, maybe I'm getting like too worked up by this, but like, I mean, it's been reported. College refs, some of them, like they're dirty. Like that's been reported. I'm not saying all of them, but other refs have said that they know refs have wrongly influenced the outcome of games. Like that stuff goes on. So I don't know. I don't know. I think what I'm saying is, and I'll leave it at this because I don't want to blab all day. But like when you're talking about hiring full-time refs, there are resources and standards that are going to naturally increase by the nature of that move. And you're going to insulate the sport better so you avoid embarrassing moments like that Texas Georgia game that was absolutely ridiculous. And I don't know. I don't know. You protect the consumer more. And isn't that what this is about when you're talking about like consumers using their hard-earned, and yeah, it is like their hard-earned money in this anyway.
Unfortunately, I think we see and believe a lot of things because of the way things are, and not meaning that if the officials starting this season, if this had been planned the entire off season, that the officials would now go to full time, and we knew that they were in all these camps getting all this elite training and preparing for the season and to be fully focused on football 7 days a week, we would evaluate them differently just on perception, not on true evaluation. And we would suddenly believe that they're doing a better job. And maybe they would hopefully be doing a better job, or it would be a horrible measurement of all this training and time and effort and money. So they should be doing a better job. But I'm saying that even if they weren't, there would be a perception that they're doing a better job.
Yeah, and that's important because you're protecting the integrity of the sport, and that stands above all when you get into legalized gambling. You have to make like when your sport gets when there's a real movement from consumers, like this is fixed, that like something shady is going on. When you do not do everything you can to insulate the sport, you start to lose integrity fast. That's a serious problem. I guess what I'm saying is I'm surprised there's not more noise about this. From my vantage point, I've seen much more rumblings from, and maybe it's just, I mean, the NFL is more popular, much bigger fan base, like, you know, maybe it's that. So there's just a louder minority, if you want to say, because you hear about like people saying the NBA is rigged, it's fixed. You hear all that all the time. I just don't hear that very much in college sports. And from, if it was protecting the brand, now again, you brought up the commissioner, like maybe that's where this has really just not been addressed, because naturally you might need a single governing body. Like would you say it's, I'm pretty sure, don't all the different conferences technically have different hiring standards and
Yes.
practices?
Yep.
Yeah, well there's tons of different conferences. In the NFL it's under one umbrella. It's unified. Protects the shield. You hear about that all the time. I think, like, yes, total revenue, like you could get into breaking that down, but it's still a very valuable sport. I don't think, I just think there's a lot of room for improvement. And I know with my money, if I'm going to get into gambling, that's always going to be in the back of my head. Now, maybe that's just me as a consumer, but I don't know. It really bothers me. And I think it's kind of blatant and obvious. And I don't really think it's all that unreasonable to ask as a consumer, especially like I said, under now the legalized gambling. Like that just takes things to a new integrity of the sport, financial, like literally dollars, like it means more now. So anyway, I just kind of wanted to get your thoughts on that. So
If I had as much pessimism about the way these sports are run as a lot of fans, I don't understand their allegiance to things that they believe are rigged. I don't get that at all.
I'm not.
I think we might have lost Nick. All right. We appreciate Nick's call. And we have been on for a long, long time. We so much want to thank Blue Wolverine. I hope Blue Wolverine is still in the chat. Blue Wolverine, give us a wave, give us a hi, give us a, you know what, Blue, if you're still in the chat. Blue Wolverine gifted 10 Voice of College Football memberships the other day, and he is doing so again today. So I don't completely understand the process, but I believe that 10 non-members are randomly selected out of the chat that's up and running right now. And Blue Wolverine has picked up those 10 memberships. And one of the big reasons why that's key right now is because we got a watch party coming up in the next couple of weeks to be announced. Again, we did announce a June 16th date. The issue there was we were running into the Michigan members only live stream, and that only makes sense that a lot of those Michigan members that want to take part in that live stream would also want to watch the win against Ohio State in 2021. So we will get together for the big watch party, and we would like to do one of those per month. Let's do this. You know, I had stated a couple days ago that we would do one watch party per month during the off season, but actually once we get into the season, we won't watch old games. We will pick a game of the month, and we will review one of the great games of the month. So let's say near the end of September, or maybe the first week of October, we will watch whatever turns out to be the best game or your game of choice for September, from September. So we'll do that during the off season as well. And God bless Minnie. She gave me a way to circumvent the system to a certain extent. And we can all watch the game together as long as you're on the trigger of the link on YouTube. So 2021 Ohio State, Michigan. And we will watch that all together here in the next couple weeks. Big Ten Media Days in a month. and a little and change the week after SEC Media Days. So all that's coming very soon. All right. Appreciate you being here, the voice of college football. And once again, thank you so much, Blue Wolverine, and everyone who contributed in any way, financially, or just by supporting by hitting the like button and commenting in the chat. Please hit the like button on the way out, and please subscribe here at the Voice of College Football. We would love to get, as Jackson has said, we want to get to 100,000 subscribers. And maybe we'll run some kind of contest. Is Mark going to go gray before I hit 100,000 subs, or what? 100,000 subs first, or I go gray? Man, I didn't think that was even going to be a chance, 3 or 4 years ago, or even a year ago. But yeah, so we're struggling to get to 100,000. So let's get that. Appreciate you being here. And next show for me would be this very show on Tuesday. And we'll have James Coleman, Florida State player from 2002 to 2005, to talk about the settlement on Tuesday, right here at the Voice of College Football. Here would be a bit of a discussion to get into someday. Many is suggesting that football should be separated entirely from the school. Okay. All right. And I see that a lot of people have jumped on that comment, both pro and con. All right. See you on Tuesday.